We're on Main Street, in front of the iconic, historic Hotel Bethlehem. Not sure if you ever noticed the plaque here on the south side of the building. It's a tribute to the very first structure built in the village by the Moravians, back in 1742. This modest building served as the first shelter for the pioneers. It protected the people and their livestock during that first winter. Since the structure was built, the Moravians and their little village thrived, growing steadily over the next few decades. During that time, much more substantial edifices were constructed. Many of them are still standing and still in use, some 280 years later. In early 1741, Count Nicholas von Zinzendorf came to Philadelphia, where he met Benjamin Franklin and other colonial leaders and made arrangements with the Iroquois for Moravian missionaries to travel and settle in the wilds of Pennsylvania. On Christmas Eve of that year, Zinzendorf led the small band of Moravians into the stable part of the newly built first house, and with lighted candles in hand, they sang hymns to commemorate the birth of Christ. While singing the hymn "Jesus Call Thou Me," that included the stanza "Not Jerusalem, lowly Bethlehem," the village was christened Bethlehem. Historians tell us the cabin was made of logs and used as a temporary shelter while the Moravians began building other more permanent buildings, including the still-standing Gammon House, now the Moravian Museum. On February 4, 1741, the first house of Bethlehem was built. It took approximately 1 month to build the log cabin. It measured 20 feet by 40 feet and was divided into 2 rooms. A loft above the entire first floor provided sleeping quarters. The first pioneers of Bethlehem moved out of the first house into the Gammon House, and the first house was used as a stable for their animals. Later it was reclaimed as a dwelling, and in 1803, the church fathers refused to let it be taken down because an elderly couple occupied it. 20 years later, in 1823, the congregation decided to build a hotel, the Golden Eagle, and the first house was then taken down to make room for a stable for the hotel. In 1892, the citizens of Bethlehem placed a memorial stone on the site of the first house, and even that had to be removed in 1921 when the Hotel Bethlehem was built to provide parking space for the hotel. The DAR Memorial House is not just a log cabin. It is a replica of the first house that was built in Bethlehem in 1741. The following are important dates and events of the first house built in 1741 and taken down in 1823, and the memorial house built as a replica by the Bethlehem Chapter, NSDAR, in 1931. The Pennsylvania Historical Commission and the Bethlehem Chapter jointly placed an embossed metal tablet on the southwest corner of the Hotel Bethlehem to show where the first house stood and where Bethlehem was born. On January 2, 1931, the Bethlehem Chapter broke ground at 444 First Avenue to build a log cabin replica of the first house of Bethlehem to be called the Memorial House. On May 29, 1931, the Memorial House was completed and dedicated. In 1942, it was used as a casualty station for the Office of Civilian Defense, and this continued for the duration of World War II. Once again, progress seemed to have its own fate on the house. In December 1964, because of the construction of the spur road, which connects Route 22 to the Hill-to-Hill Bridge, the Pennsylvania Highway Department made a settlement with the Bethlehem Chapter because the land on which the Memorial House stood was needed for the roadway. On April 1, 1965, the Memorial House was relocated from the First Avenue site to the Rose Garden on 8th Avenue. The Bethlehem Chapter rededicated the Memorial House and presented it to the city of Bethlehem on October 29, 1965. Which brings us just about a mile or so west to the Rose Garden. Here along the 8th Avenue side stands the DAR House, the replica of Bethlehem's first house. These days, the building is used by the Bethlehem Chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution.